There is a massive fiscal deficit in our city's budget to the tune of at least $12 billion.
America, New York City just elected a Democratic Socialist as a mayor, and in 4 weeks, not 4 months, not 4 years, 4 weeks, Zohran Mamdani is already crying about a $12 billion budget deficit crisis.
We are speaking about a fiscal crisis at the scale greater than the Great Recession.
But here's the kicker. This man campaigned on free childcare for everyone, free buses and subways, and affordable housing for all. And now he's shocked that free stuff costs money.
We need to change our relationship to the state. We also need to change our relationship to the wealthiest residents and most profitable corporations.
And his solution? Tax the rich, because that's worked out so well for every other city that tried it. What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me show you exactly how socialism crashes into reality at 100 miles an hour. Let me remind you what Zohran Mamdani promised New Yorkers during his campaign, because the contrast between fantasy and reality is a chef's kiss. Free childcare for all New Yorkers, free public transportation, affordable housing for everybody, expanded social services, and when anyone asks how we're going to pay for this, his answer is always the same: tax the rich.
But the biggest piece of the puzzle, raising taxes. Mamdani wants to raise the corporate tax to 11.5%. His plan is also to tax any household that makes over $1 million, an additional 2%.
Classic socialist answer: just tax the rich. Problem solved. Except now he's actually in office and he's discovering what every socialist discovers when they try to implement their policies. The math ain't mathin'. Here's the reality, arguably so. Eric Adams left Mamdani with a balanced budget at $8 billion in reserves. But Mamdani's campaign promises, those cost about $20 billion. So where did this $12 billion deficit come from? It came from his promises. He promised free everything without planning to pay for it. And now he's standing in front of cameras acting like this is someone else's fault.
New York City is facing a serious fiscal crisis. There is a massive fiscal deficit in our city's budget to the tune of at least $12 billion. In the words of the Jackson 5, it's as easy as ABC. This is the Adams budget crisis.
Did this man just quote the Jackson 5 while announcing a fiscal crisis greater than the recession? This is how unserious these people are. 4 weeks in office, and he's already pointing fingers, making pop culture references, and refusing to take responsibility for his own unrealistic promises. Now here's where it gets really good. Mamdani needs Governor Kathy Hochul's permission to raise certain taxes in New York City. The state legislature has to approve major tax increases. So what does Hochul say?
Once again, there are no income taxes. New York State is receiving over $17 billion in revenue over the next 2 years. That exceeds our earlier projections. That's $17 billion from high-income earners, from record Wall Street bonuses, and from an economy that's booming again.
Translation: figure it out yourself. Zohran, I'm not raising taxes to bail out your socialist spending spree. And here's why Hochul is saying no. She's facing re-election next year. She can't afford to look like a tax and spend Democrat right before voters go to the polls. Mamdani's problems are not her problems.
We've been very open and honest with the governor and the governor's team, as well as with legislative leaders, as to the scale of this crisis and the need for us to respond to it in a manner that addresses the enormity of it. That will require increased revenue.
Listen to him. We've been very open and honest. That's politicians speak for we're begging and she's not listening. But here's the real problem with Mamdani's tax the rich plan. New York already has some of the highest taxes in the country. Combine that with state and city income tax rate that is nearly 15%. Property tax is among the highest in the nation. Sales tax in New York City is almost 9%. And the rich are already leaving. New York lost over 300,000 residents between 2020 and 2023. Wealthy people are moving to Florida and Texas. Businesses are relocating to lower tax states. The tax base is shrinking.
And I don't see a whole lot that is going to make New Yorkers feel like their lives are getting more affordable.
The governor has a way of finding the resources to do that outside of raising revenues, we're all ears.
This is death spiral economics. You raise taxes, the rich leave, your tax base shrinks, you have less revenue, so you raise taxes again and more people leave. It is a vicious cycle, and Mamdani wants to accelerate it. Let's talk about Mamdani's first move when confronted with this budget crisis. Blame Eric Adams. Blame Eric Adams. This is straight out of a socialist playbook.
This crisis has a name and a chief architect. Former Mayor Eric Adams handed the next administration a poisoned chalice. He systematically under-budgeted services that New Yorkers rely on every single day, while quietly leaving behind enormous gaps for the future.
But here's what Mamdani isn't telling you. Eric Adams dealt with the COVID recovery and the asylum seeker crisis that cost billions of dollars. And he still left Mamdani with $8 billion in reserves and an arguably balanced budget. So if Adams left you with $8 billion in reserves, where did this $12 billion deficit come from? Let me do the math for you. Adam leaves $8 billion in reserves. Mamdani promises free childcare, free buses, expanded services. Cost of Mamdani's promises, $20+ million. The result? $12 billion deficit. You created this deficit with your unrealistic campaign promises. You promised free everything without having a realistic plan to pay for it. And now you're blaming Adams for your own fiscal irresponsibility.
The Democrats better get these people in line and stop talking the rhetoric. You know, they're building their party around illegal immigrants now because anybody with so much sense, sadly, has been leaving New York.
And she's right. Anyone with sense is leaving New York because they know what's coming down the hopper. They see a socialist mayor who promised free everything, can't pay for it, wants to raise taxes, and is already blaming everybody else for the mess that he created.
President Trump says he's taking additional steps to enforce his immigration crackdown. He says the federal government will stop making payments to sanctuary cities and states with those cities. He said that would happen starting February 1st.
And what does Mamdani do? He immediately opposes it. He says New York will not allow ICE agents to conduct immigration raids without judicial warrants.
We're either going to comply and follow the simple rule of law, such as allowing Tom Holman or ICE, however you want to categorize this, onto Rikers Island so that they could very comfortably, quietly take out the criminals.
So let me get this straight. Mamdani will protect illegal immigrants from federal law enforcement, but he can't protect American taxpayers from a $12 billion budget crisis. He'll fight for criminals to stay in sanctuary cities, but he won't fix the fiscal disaster he created with his own promises. This is the priority system of the modern left. Illegal immigrants get protection, criminals get sanctuary, but hardworking taxpayers, they get a $12 billion bill and a lecture about how the rich need to pay more. So if Mamdani can't raise taxes enough to close the $12 billion deficit, what's he gonna cut? According to him, nothing.
Right now, we are not entertaining the idea of cuts. What we are talking about are savings and efficiencies that can be made, but
savings and efficiencies. That's political speak, for I have no freaking idea how I'm going to close the gap. I'm not going to admit it, though. And here's a big example of waste. The AI chatbot that cost $500,000 and his solution to a $12 billion deficit, $500 million chatbot. Let me put that in perspective. That's like your house being on fire and you're trying to put it out with a water pistol. The scale of the problem versus the scale of the solution is absolutely laughable. And this is the reality Mamdani refuses to accept. When you raise taxes, when you create a hostile business environment, when you prioritize illegal immigrants over citizens, people leave, businesses relocate, tax base shrinks, and your budget crisis gets absolutely worse, not better. But he won't know that because he's never had a job before. Here's the pattern that you need to understand, because this isn't just about New York. This is about what happens every single time socialists get in power. Step 1, promise free everything. Step 2, get elected. Step 3, realize you can't pay for it. Step 4, blame the previous administration. Step 5, try tax the rich. Step 6, rich people leave. Step 7, revenue drops. Step 8, blame everybody else. Step 9, fail. Mamdani is on step 8 right now, and it's only been 4 weeks. You know who Mamdani reminds me of? Timmy Tampon Walsh. Remember when Timmy Tampon Walsh dropped out of his re-election campaign because fraud and mismanagement got so bad that he couldn't govern anymore? Tim Walsh lasted years before the wheels came off. Mamdani is speedrunning collapse. He's in crisis mode just after 4 weeks. America, Zohran Mamdani just gave you a master class on how socialism fails in real time. 4 weeks in office, $12 billion deficit, already blaming Eric Adams, already begging Hochul for tax increases she won't approve, already refusing to cut spending, already protecting illegal immigrants while taxpayers foot the bill. This is what happens when you elect somebody who promises free everything without understanding basic economics. The math never works. The rich leave. The tax base shrinks. The people who suffer are the hardworking taxpayers who believe in the bullcrap promises. New York voters, you voted for this. They elected a Democratic Socialist who told them exactly what he was going to do. And now they're learning the same lesson every society learns when they elect socialists. Free stuff ain't free. Somebody always has to pay for it. And in New York, it's going to be the middle class that gets crushed. Mamdani's got a choice: break his promises or break the budget. My money's on both. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.